Hi everyone. So this is homeandaway underscore W show, and I'm actually uploading a first video about work life. So as you know that I'm actually a private tutor and I actually focus on secondary school math and science. For now I will actually go through the question which is actually a decision making question. So this kind of question it will always appear in the last question of the paper 2. So if we were to take a look at the question, so they'll actually give you some data and information. And this question especially, what I want to highlight is this is actually a decision-making question. So you are actually given two choices. And then you will have to make a decision between two of them. So it's like only one correct answer. And you actually will need to justify using mathematical calculations. Okay. So, but I need to highlight to you that in the actual O level exam paper, or even in the secondary school national exam mathematics papers, that this decision making question won't be a standalone question. This will actually be the last part of the question, and there will definitely be earlier parts to help you to guide your thought process. Okay, so as you can see that there's actually question A, part 1 and part 2 for you to maybe perhaps do some warm up before the actual decision making question comes. So let's go through this whole question. Okay, so for question 9 is talking about these two guys, Zhao and Mei. So you notice that they actually recorded their body weights, their brisk walking speed and the jogging speed. Okay, so you may want to notice that Zhao and Mei have actually different body weights. When they brisk walk, they have the same speed, and when they jog, they actually have a different speed. Okay, so there's actually a passage for you to read. They find the following information about the benefits of exercise. So you may want to skim through this passage, and when you actually skim through this passage, basically one thing you need to know is there are two types of health benefits. One is a recommended, the other is additional. So for recommended, at least 150 minutes moderate, or at least 75 minutes vigorous per week. Then for additional, it should be moderate 300 minutes each week, or any equivalent combination of moderate and vigorous intensity aerobic activity. Okay, so in other words, if you find that the text is a little bit too long, you can actually just take note of the underlined points in red. And another piece of information is that 1 minute of vigorous equals to 2 minutes of moderate. That's it. Okay, so I would like to highlight to you that okay, jogging is one example of a vigorous activity, whereas brisk walking is an example of a moderate activity. Okay, and they also give you some other information like muscle strengthening activities should be done on at least 2 days per week. Okay, then you see that there's also a table which gives you the body weight of 60 kg, 70 kg, 80 kg, 90 kg. Okay, so in case you may find that the data is too much when you contextualize and you notice that Zhao weighs 80 kg and Mei weighs 70 kg. So apparently you no need to even look at the column for 60 kg and 90 kg. You just need to focus on these two columns over here. Okay. Then they have these things like walking 5 km per hour, walking 6.5 km per hour, jogging 8 km per hour, and jogging 9.5. So again, you look back at the table. So you will notice that there's actually one row which you no need. In this case is walking 6.5 km per hour. Okay, this row you no need. So it actually reduced this table to a much more manageable 6 entries. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, you only need these 3 rows and you only need these 2 columns. Okay, Then you may want to know that, okay, for example, 1 hour of yoga, approximately 3 calories per kg of body weight. Okay, so 1 hour of weight training uses about 4 calories per kg of body weight. Okay, so these are actually the information given to you, and you may find that it's actually a lot, but not to worry, we will take a look at the questions first. Okay, so for the question A, it's talking about both Zhao and Mei wants to go for 4 brisk walks each. Okay, so that means Zhao go for 4 brisk walk and Mei also go for 4 brisk walk. Okay, notice that the route they will go is the same. And a very important piece of information. When each person walk for 4 times, okay, so they will actually meet the minimum target for the time for recommended health benefits in 1 week. Okay, so a very important words to take note are 4 walks referring to per pax, minimum target, and then recommended. Okay, so what does it mean by the time for recommended health benefits in 1 week? Okay, if you refer back to the previous page, the time for recommended health benefits per week, okay, is it 150, is it 75, or is it 300? Okay, so you may want to read this passage actually very closely in the box of health advice. Okay, so you may want to take note that, okay, brisk walking is actually an example of a moderate activity. Okay, so because brisk walking is an example of a moderate activity, then you will realize that actually the reference value you need to take is 150 minutes. So the minimum time per week is 150 minutes. Okay, so okay, this is actually 150 minutes. Okay, so the question asks you to work out the distance of one of these walks. So notice that this is actually a 2-mark question. Okay, and the units given is actually km. So actually one thing you can do is that we will first break down the problem into simpler thing, a simpler task. In this case, you want to find the time taken for one of these walks. So when we want to find for the time, we assume, not really assume, but because the question says that we walk the same route each time, and the data given is that okay, because it's the same route, that's why we can actually easily deduce that the time for each walk, okay, you divide by 4, and we have 37.5 minutes per walk. Okay, then we recall this triangle, distance is equal to speed times time. Okay, another point you need to take note is make sure that the units, they are consistent with each other. What do I mean by this? Okay, because if you refer to the earlier part, they say that both Zhao and Mei actually walk at 5 kilometers per hour. Okay, so you know that the speed is 5. So you know that the speed, right, is actually equals to 5 kilometers per hour. Okay, so since speed is equals to 5 kilometers per hour, that's why you actually will need to convert the time into hours so that you can find the distance in kilometers. So we have actually equals to 37.5 over 60 hours. Okay, from there we work out distance. Okay, equals to 5 times 37.5 over 60. Okay. When you punch in the calculator, you will actually get the answer is actually equals to 3.125 kilometers. So notice that this is actually in exact form, so you no need to give it to 3 significant figures. Just write down the answer as it is exact. So remember, only the 3 significant figure rule for the numbers. This rule applies when the answers given is not exact, or 1 dp in case of the angle is not exact. But in this case, 3.125 is exact, and hence we need to write down the answer as such. Do not round off to 3.13. Okay. Now for part 2, how many more calories Zhao uses in these 4 watts than May does? Okay, so you need to notice that Zhao actually weighs 80 kg and May actually weighs 70 kg. Okay, this piece of information is very important because it affects the calories that we need to use in the computation. So, okay, so we know these 4 watts take all together 150 minutes. Okay, then if you look back at the earlier passage, okay, so it actually mentions that, okay, these 2 people actually walk 5 kilometers per hour. So you will notice that actually for Zhao, he actually spends a total of 135 calories for 30 minutes. And for May's case, because she weighs 70 kg, and that's why she spends 120 calories. Okay, but notice that these calories are per 30 minutes. So you want to convert 30 minutes into 150 minutes, so you need to times 5 for both. Okay, or in other words, you can take a difference between 135 and 120. You get 15 and you times 5, and then you get 75 more calories. Okay, so the thing is based on data, okay, so Zhao uses 135 calories per 30 minutes. And then for May, she actually uses 120 calories per 30 minutes. Okay. Then what you need to do is you need to basically times 5 for both. Okay. So basically you subtract this thing, and then hence you get the difference in calories is equals to 5 times 135 minus 120, you get 75. So actually this is a 1 mark question, okay, but requires you to pay more attention when it comes to the finding information. Okay, so I'm going to write down the answer over here, 75. Okay, then for question B, this is a decision making question. So in case you are not so sure how to solve it, always SOS the earlier parts, or in other words, always refer to the earlier parts for help. Okay, so after 1 month and these 2 people decide to change their routines, so you will need to consider Zhao and May. Zhao wants to get additional health benefits. So remember, additional health benefits is at least 300 minutes for moderate. Okay, at least 300 okay, Okay, just a while. Of moderate. Okay. And then he wants to do a 4-kilometer walk 3 times each week, 6-kilometer jog 2 times each week, and do the yoga class 45 minutes 2 times a week. Okay, so it may seem very complicated, but actually Zhao wants to do 3 kinds of exercises. Okay, then for May, she wants recommended, so it's actually 150 minutes for moderate. Okay, and May wants to do 2 activities. Okay, the first one being a 8 kilometers jog. So notice that it's actually 2 times a week. And then she also do a weight training session, 30-minute weight training session 2 times a week. Okay, so this is what Zhao says. Okay, notice there are 2 parts, so this is actually a complex question. We will both meet our targets for exercise. This is part 1. Okay, part 2, but I'll use about 50% more calories than May does during our exercise each week. So this is the second part. Okay, so notice that this word but is a little bit like and, in the sense that you need both these statements to be correct to say that Zhao is correct. Okay, logically, if you use the word and, if any part is wrong, the whole statement is incorrect. So for example, if part 1 is correct and part 2 is incorrect, so that means the whole statement is incorrect. When part 1 is incorrect, part 2 is correct, the whole statement is incorrect, and when part 1 and part 2 is incorrect, both statements are incorrect. Okay, so now let's break down into part by part. Okay, so the first one is talking about time. Second part is talking about calories. So let's deal with the time factor, because the time factor is actually more straightforward compared to calories. Calories, you need more intense calculations. Okay, so let's do the time factor between the Zhao and the time factor for May. Okay, so for the time, okay, so we have Zhao, I put as Z. Okay, so we know that actually Zhao decided to do a 4-kilometer walk 3 times a week. So essentially he is walking 12 kilometers per week. Okay, so remember that Zhao actually walks 5 kilometers per hour. So as a result, that when you use distance, it goes to speed times time, and you have actually 4 times 3. So this is actually a distance divided by 5. Okay, so this is actually the time calculated. And then for the 6-kilometer jog 2 times each week, so similarly that he did also 12-kilometer jog in total, but because when he jogs at 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, so what you can do is that when you refer to relevant data, okay, so again is distance equals speed times time. So we have 6/2 divided by 8. Okay, then for the yoga class, it's very straightforward. You notice that it's actually 0.75 hours times 2. Okay, then you notice that the total time you add up is actually 9.3 hours, which is greater than the 300 minutes for moderate exercise. Okay, then now we go to the May. Okay, so similar calculation that May actually jogs total 16 kilometers, and her speed is actually 9.5 kilometers per hour. So what you can do is actually 8 times 2 over 9.5 using similar reasoning. Okay, so you need to add also the 30-minute weight training session 2 times each week. So essentially it's 1 hour. Okay, 0.5 times 2. Okay, notice that you actually get 2.68 hours, which is greater than 150 minutes. Okay, so in other words, part 1 is correct. Okay, hence 1 is correct. Okay, but you also need part 2 to be correct to say that the whole statement is correct. Okay, so now we go to the more complicated calculation when it comes to the calories. So again, I'll put Z as Zhao, M as Mei. Okay, so we have for Zhao, okay, when you actually refer to the earlier data, okay, so notice that he actually needs 135 calories for walk, 315 calories for the jog, okay, and also because he did yoga, so he needs about 3 calories. You need it times 80 kg, which is his weight. Okay, notice it's 1 hour of yoga. So actually the calculation that I can do, okay, so essentially is you use this. Okay, this is the total duration. Okay, but because the total duration, you will need to divide, you need to find how many 30-minute blocks of time are there in this time. So you actually divide by 0.5 hours. Then you actually times based on what's given in the data. Okay. Then for the jog, you do a similar thing. Okay. Again, based on the data. And then for the yoga, notice that it's 49 minutes times 2, so you have 90 minutes. So you need to consider it as 0.75 times 2. Okay. So you have 1.5. Okay. And based on the information, they say that is 1 hour of yoga uses approximately 3 calories per kilogram of body weight. So it's actually, you need to factor in the times 3 times 80. Okay. So when you add this up, notice that you actually get 1953 calories. Okay. And then for May, you do a similar calculation. Okay. So for May, she actually did 16 over 9.5 hours. Okay, refer to the data. She jogged faster. Okay, so she jogged 9.5 km per hour and she's 70 kg, and that you need to take 345 calories. Okay. Then one thing is that you also need to consider the weight training session. So for the weight training session, that she spends exactly 1 hour weight training, so she uses 4 calories per kg of body weight. So it's literally 0.5 times 2, okay, times 4 times 70. Okay, then you actually realize that it's actually 861.05 calories. So this is in 5SF. Okay, so because the second part of question says that, okay, Zhao will use 50% more calories than Mei. Is it really true? Okay, so we can actually use this 1953 over 861.05. So when you're punching a calculator, you will notice that it's actually 2.26 times, which is not equals to 1.5 times. Hence, you notice that 1 is correct, 2 is wrong, because the word but implies that both is something like and. You need both 1 and 2 to be correct, okay? Hence, conclusion is statement is incorrect. So Zhao is incorrect. Okay. That's it. Okay. So I actually hope that this video will help you to understand how to do the decision making questions better and don't get stumped by it. Okay, since you need slightly more time to do these questions, so for the earlier questions which are easier, you can actually do it quicker and then leave sufficient time to do the decision making questions. So if you're not sure how to even do break it down into easier parts. Okay, so when you break down into easier parts, more manageable parts okay, you tackle them one by one and eventually you will solve them. You need a lot of perseverance, you need a lot of practice in doing this. So I actually wish you all the best when it comes to the national exams for mathematics, okay, in secondary schools.